Something else which we need, as well as the joy, is a bit of trust, which is something that seems to be a declining commodity in our world today, according to recent surveys. And perhaps, I don't know, perhaps it's the ministry gift of cynicism. Perhaps we have less reason to be trusting and swallowing everything that we see on social media whole. Joining us on the program now, though, is Education and Partnership Manager for the Free Speech Union, Nick Hanne. Nick, kia ora. Good morning. Thanks for your time.
Morning, Andrew. Good to be with you.
The question of declining trust is a big issue, but perhaps a different way of spinning this would be, who do you trust? Because we tend to get a bit tribal. We take sides and say, hey, these are the people that we trust and these are the people that we don't trust. Although I understand that trust generally is in decline in this part of the world.
Yeah, well, we're very concerned, and I think average Kiwis should be concerned as well, not just the politicians and the journalists who are looking a little down in the polls here. But there are 3 studies that have just come out recently, and this includes one by Stats New Zealand, one by the Edelman Trust, and another one called the New Zealand Election Study. So 3, separate studies, all showing a serious long-term sort of trend in terms of a lack of trust in our politicians and media figures, particularly journalists.
Yeah.
It's a real concern.
I can understand journalists and perhaps some question marks on whether or not, particularly as there's some financial constraints in print journalism in particular. And politicians, we expect them to be tribal. We expect them to have a certain point of view. They're going to have a bias in this. But the thing that really concerns me about this research is also a lack of trust in our systems of law and order, and in particular the judiciary. If we can't trust the judges, we're in a bunch of trouble.
Yeah, well, absolutely. And I think there's a real concern amongst just everyday Kiwis that what we're seeing is a paternalistic approach, whether it's from the judiciary, whether it's from politicians, whether it's from the media, when it comes to so-called kind of complex issues. Now, there are complex issues and many complex issues out there that we have to try and figure out and solve as a democracy. But this view that we have been, that basically the experts need to be given the task of solving these problems and everybody else just needs to kind of stand back and let the experts take care of it.
Yeah.
That is, we think, a major factor in this decline in confidence and trust in our key institutions. And so we're really saying, particularly from a free speech perspective, we're not just trying to jump on the bandwagon here and say, hey, free speech as well, don't forget free speech. But we actually think free speech or the erosion of free speech culture in this country is a significant factor in this decline in public confidence in our key institutions. And there are some pretty important ways in which free speech culture keeps people obviously accountable, keeps things transparent, and it's about equalizing in the sense of everybody. We're not claiming that everyone's an expert. And I'm not going to claim I'm an expert on the treaty.
Yeah.
And I know that certain people could speak with more experience and more insight on that subject. But I do want to be able to understand at least the basic principles that are being discussed when people say treaty principles. So I think that this is not so much a question of, everyone's an expert. No, I think we all agree that most of us aren't experts on some of these things, but we want to be kept in the loop. We want to know what's going on, and we don't want to be spoken down to as if we were, children.
Yeah.
And so we want to know that we're part of a democracy where we are at least able to transparently understand what's going on and hear what's going on, and that people in positions of authority, though they may be experts in certain things, are going to be at least listening and showing what they're doing, revealing what they're doing in terms of making decisions.
Hey, we don't need to go into the details. Trust me, I know what is best for you. That is just a scary phrase when you put it in that context. And this is also true to an extent in academic circles, or people, as you say, who are self-proclaimed experts in a certain area. I'm the expert, which means that you don't get to have an opinion on this. The flip side of this, though, Nick, is that, hey, everybody's got an opinion on a bunch of stuff that they really know nothing about. And in recent years, we saw that, where suddenly everybody was a health expert and knew the best way to deal with a pandemic, and these are the things you need to do. And some of the people who actually had medical degrees were, oh no, this is all a conspiracy theory and everybody's view is valid. Actually, if everybody's view is valid, then that gets pretty dangerous pretty quickly. We need to have trust in people that have done medical degrees, who have gone to law school, not necessarily the journalists. I'm quite happy to put that to one side, but we need to have a society where we can trust people that know more than us, that have our best interests at heart, perhaps.
Absolutely. And I think we're not against expertise. I mean, I think Kiwis are going to choose a person with a higher qualification or the, more extensive experience on a particular subject or topic when they're looking for help, when they're looking for advice. That's not the issue. The issue is that we may well say, well, you're the most experienced, you're the most qualified, we'll appoint you to a position to do a job. But we are going to ask that you be transparent about what you do.
Yep.
And we're going to hold you accountable so that at the end of the day, if we feel that there is something not adding up here, and we see some issues in terms of how you conduct yourself in that role, whether it's a publicly appointed role or you're a democratically elected official, whoever you are, that you're going to show that this is how you do things and it's open and it's out there for people to see. We don't need, people saying you wouldn't understand, leave it with me.
Yeah.
And so that for us is the issue. And this idea we need someone to interpret whether something is misinformation or not. I think a lot of people actually are more informed than we give them credit for.
Yeah.
And I think even if you're not informed, the point is that you want to be part of the discussion. You want to hear different sides. You want to be able to piece together some understanding for yourself of what's going on. We don't need a sort of a unitary statement going out, which kind of covers everything in such a monolithic way. It
is true that we all should have the basic human right of free speech, but to quote Orwell on this one, some opinions are more equal than others on this one. Some people actually have got their head around more complex issues. Other people have just got opinions. I think the full extension of free speech for all can get a little bit dangerous, where in amongst this we've also got some bad faith actors who are making stuff up or are pushing forward a certain agenda for a variety of reasons. Yes, everybody has got free speech, but not all of that free speech should be swallowed whole. We should have perhaps a reason to be cynical, a reason to be cautious without throwing out the baby with the bathwater.
Yeah, sure. I think just to be really clear, though, when Orwell, you're quoting Orwell there, but you're actually quoting his characters,
yes,
who are dictators, right? And so the pigs in the story of Animal Farm, which Orwell wrote,
yeah,
they're making the point that they think that they are superior to the rest, and they use this euphemistic statement in order to try and sort of fudge the matter. And I think the point here is that in order to understand whether something is misinformation or not, or whether there's a malicious reason behind information, whatever the reason might be, whether it's accurate or not, we need an open dialogue. We need open discourse, so that the best arguments can ultimately prevail. And that's how you get evidence. That's how you get information that you might not have had on your own if you were just left to work it out for yourself.
Yeah.
We're going to hear a diverse range of perspectives. And ultimately, one of the things I do is I'm going into schools and trying to encourage young people to understand that a culture of free speech is the start or the beginning, the essential sort of foundation to critical thinking. It is critical thinking that will allow us to be able to take a diverse range of voices and perspectives and then make some sort of sense of all of that and figure out how to sift through and pass that information in order that we can come up with a coherent, logical, and workable solution to a problem.
Yeah, very good.
So, we'll have to discard stuff as we go, but only critical thinking is going to make that possible.
Exactly. And if everybody has an equal say in this process, don't let the algorithms push you into a certain way of thinking. Engage with some of the issues, even some of the complicated ones. And if you can't get your head around them, find somebody who you do trust and I suppose have a reason for what you believe but do so with gentleness and respect. That's the story behind it. Hey, the work that you do in the education space, Nick, encouraging schools and in particular to engage in the space of free speech and what that will mean for us as a nation moving forward. Can people find out more about that? Can they connect with you? What's the best way to do that?
Yeah, absolutely. So, I mean, our website's obviously the first port of call, fsu.nz, and you'll see there that we've got a great team of people doing diverse things. I'm primarily responsible for going into high schools and running these sessions with students. So we're always keen to hear from anyone at all, whether you're a teacher, whether you're a parent, whether you're just a concerned citizen that wants to see the local school, taking on some of this stuff. So we'll come in and we'll run a session with students, usually older high school students, but we'll talk to anyone from year 9 to 13. And we'll go anywhere in the country, and we don't charge for the service, although we appreciate people supporting our work when they can. Mm-hmm. And so, therefore, that's what we're offering. So I'd be the person to talk to in terms of the detail around that. But yeah, go to our website and you'll see how you can get hold of us.
And such fabulous work as well, encouraging the skills of critical thinking, not what to think, but how to think for our next generation of leaders in Aotearoa New Zealand. Nick, thanks for the work you do. fsu.nz for more information. Thanks for joining us today.
Thank you, Andrew.
Hey, thanks very much for joining us in the Rhema studio. Thanks very much for watching the interview. It's kind of nice to have an audience, actually. And if you did like what you watched, then do give us a like, do give us the thumbs up. And if you'd like to see more interviews like that one, or perhaps even better, subscribe and those interviews will come straight to you. Don't forget to turn on your notifications, and we'll see you in the next one. Cheers.